were either Tony Rose first or I can't remember. Pete and Chris Coe. It's been pointed out to me by one of the guys who was around at the time and is still alive that probably it was Pete and Chris Coe's gig and that Tony was there.
Well, he was a local one.
Because he was at the folk club all the time anyway. But Tony had about 3 or 4 signature songs, all from pretty much the Baring Gould collection, which is the definitive West Country canon of traditional songs and all the rest of it. And let's just get something going here.
And this song was actually collected in Cowley, which is a village about 2 miles away from Jolly Porter in Exeter. So you've got Tony Rose, local singer, who was a bit of a hero. Some of you may remember Tony, some of you might not. He died about 15 years ago. Very charismatic guy, quite difficult to get to know. And it's his son that is one of Phil Skipper's now, Diggory, for the sailing thing. So anyway, Johnny Jones, who's my co-patron, went to university at Exeter. So he's a bit older than us, maybe 4 years or so. We used to see him in the Jolly Porter. This young student, again quite a charismatic sort of guy. Tony Rose, he heard Tony Rose singing and he learnt that song way back then and was also recorded it with June Tabor. So I think if do you want to play what you know of it, Phil, and I'll play you the version.
Well, my version obviously is fairly close to Tony's. He's playing on concertina, I'm doing it in G. So
too high for me.
Yeah. So this is, I don't use this guitar with show of hands. This is the failure design guitar. I thought I'd designed the ultimate slide guitar and it turned out to be complete cobblers. And I realise now in retrospect that David Oddie was looking at me like I was an idiot when I said, I want a really large OC type guitar with an extra wide neck and I want it to be flat, and actually flat neck is completely useless for slide. You need some curvature on it. So, but I somehow thought it, and it doesn't really work terribly well. But I left it for years and years, and then about 2 years ago happened to end up in my studio tuning it to open G and discovered that it loves open G, you know. And this is the K and Ks, right? This is the body pickup, so a warm, if woolly sound. So I started picking up this song about a year ago and sort of vaguely relearning it, but very much like Tony would have done it, and with the classic traddy type guitar accompaniments. He's making me think already. We've only been here 10 minutes. He's taking me capers. It was on a Monday's April morning, just as the sun was rising. On an April morning, and heard the small birds sing. They were singing lovely Nancy, for love it is a fancy, and sweet were the notes that I heard the small birds sing. So that might be a way that anyone who's into the trad canon might interpret that song. And I rarely use open tunings, but there's a variety of reasons. I also try and avoid capos because they're a pain in the ass anyway. But G does happen to be a good key for my voice, and anything that most of the guys and girls can do in the more sort of esoteric open C tunings, I just convert it into G. And use open G, because then G is also a great blues, open G is a great blues thing. And just to bore the arse off everyone, because you've all heard this before, it's only when you get into open G that you suddenly realise that all your life you've been trying to emulate Keith Richards and it won't work in standard tuning until you go. All of it is done like that, you know. So Joni Mitchell, everyone, it's all in that tuning, you know. It's a very versatile, very useful tuning. But without getting too technical, open C tuning, which sounds much more modal, is actually the same intervals, all moved up one, basically. So if you think only in terms of chord shapes and not individual notes, you can actually apply them. What you've got to do is remember to move them all over one string.
So when I came to learning this song with Johnny Jones, Melodian, they are nailed in G. And he's got a high voice like Phil, naturally higher voice than me. And I'm finding my voice is getting stronger in the lower register and stronger when I go above the break, which is that bit in your voice where the falsetto happens, you know, which for me is on da, around a D, but da, I can go above it really strong, but hovering around it is losing a bit of its, I don't know, power. So I'm inclined to either take that song down and sing it stronger or take it higher. But with Johnny, he wanted to do it in G because we did it with the Melodian. But my rearrangement of it was to take it to the cello mandolin and to do it in E. So Phil's doing it in G, I'm taking it down 2 tones. So it was on one April's morning, just as the sun was rising. It was on one April's morning, I heard the small birds sing. They were singing lovely Nancy, for love it is our fancy, and sweet were the notes that I heard the small birds sing. They were singing lovely Nancy, for love it is our fancy, and sweet were the notes that I heard the small birds sing. To do it in that key, make it a bit less, I know, a bit less choir boy, you know, taking it to that lower register. So I've sort of doing it in E.
Yeah.
Which is not much fun for the fiddle. It's possible, but
It's perfectly fine. But it might easily conceivably be something to start with the mandolin on and see how that sounds, especially if you're up tempoing it slightly from the way I've been doing it. It's coming out a bit faster, and especially with the repeat chorus, I can also try tenor.
We'll try some voicings.
Let's try a tenor.
Because at the end of it, what's going to happen on Monday, I've written a little tune, a little Morris tune that goes the thing with Johnny, an amazing dancer called Jack Honeysett is going to come out and do, you wouldn't think that people could dance the Morris like that, but he does these extraordinary leaps. And Jack is a 3rd generation Morris dancer from Exeter. His dad, Johnny, used to know from Great Western Morris. So at the end of the song, we're going to play this tune, and Jack's just going to appear and do this lovely, slow, single Morris, which, don't tell anybody, that's a big festival secret. Okay, nobody knows that's good. Is anybody going to Shrewsbury?
Jackson's.
What?
Jackson's. I know someone who is. Yeah,
Okay.
from Swansea.
Shh, shh.
Must tell.
That's quite a nice voicing.
Yeah.
I can hear now there's a nice range from the low of the cello up to the tenor. But the trouble is we are in capo land, which may be, in some concert situations, I'll have to think of an interminable story to cover the tuning. So we'll just try and agree some chords first of all. So.
Saw Barry Honeysett last week at Turf.
Is that his
Yes.
dad?
Hang on, let's get it right. So it's no, Barry's grandfather.
Jack is Jackie Oates' boyfriend.
Yes, that's right.
You haven't fathered any of these
No,
people.
No, definitely Barry. Barry's grand.
He was the, what do they call it? The not the caller, the squire, wasn't he, or something of the Morris? Or...
He's of Exeter Morris. Yes,
Yeah.
that's Barry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he used to have 3rd shares in a folk boat that they kept crashing on the Exe with John Spree, who was sailing with me last week. Just in case you're interested.
This is all a bit of an incestuous scene. This
Terribly.
folk scene.
Yeah. Folk scenes, folk boats.
Those textures are very English, and they seem just right for. So for the chords for the song, first of all.
Yeah. place to start, yeah.
Can you turn up a bit? You're coming out of there, aren't you? I'm a bit drowning me or drowning. What does that thing? Does that sound like? It doesn't sound like something that we do a lot of. This particular sound, because obviously we're trying not to repeat, you know, the sounds and textures that we've done a lot, and we've done a lot of slide guitar lately, haven't we? So
Probably too much.
yeah.
Yeah. Is it,
And also there are some.
there's a problem. There's a problem with set planning. Sometimes it looks all right on paper until you realise that there are either 4 or 5 songs with the fiddle in succession, or 4 or 5 songs with a bit of slide in succession. And it's only when you're doing it that you actually realise that it's sonically a bit tedious, especially to the person playing it.
Yeah, we try and change textures a lot, obviously. So, but I can hear this.
I've got a huge amount of scope for I can play the tune in 2 or 3 different positions.
Yeah.
So,
What we're trying to do is lose the tune in the chord, so it's sort of there. So let's do one once round.
Won't play it
Nor will I. Lovely, good running. And people go.
Don't do it then.
That would be a concept, wouldn't it? That would be abstract art at its finest.
You've got the mandolin cap. You see, all the capos, they gradually, it's like Sharpies. You know, we get through 200 Sharpies on a tour, okay? And what happens is, you get his keys, you go to his car, you open it, and the side pocket of the door has about 200 Sharpies in it, and they just all end up in there. But I've been looking for that capo.
I like Sharpies. Okay, let's just go a nice pass
all right,
through.
I won't play the tune.
Yeah, we'll pick it. We'll see what happens. Who cares? Okay, 3, 4. 'Twas. Yeah, that's the chord where we're.
Yeah, I'm just putting the sauce in it, but I mean, I can play
Make
the
it a
full
bit
thing.
stronger for me. We'll just go chords up. 3, 4.
That's minor there, so can you just go repeat that line again, please? Yeah.
For young manifolds and the full of all deceiving, young manifolds and they seldom can prove true. They are roving and they're ranging, and their hearts are always changing, seeking out to find them some other pretty girl that's young man. Don't you spend all your long time in courting? Young man, don't you spend all your long time in vain? For I don't intend to marry, I would far rather tarry. Young man, don't you spend all your long time in vain. Sorry, my fault. Was on one April's morning, just as the sun was rising. 'Twas on one April's morning, I heard the small birds sing. They were singing lovely Nancy, for love it is our fancy, and sweet were the notes that I heard the small birds sing. So that's an approach for the song. What's funny about that? Wow. That's extraordinary. Even through a very strong mute, that's the power of the earth. Wow.
The power of the earth.
Okay, let's try it in a different approach for it. Guitar and fiddle or mandolin.
Now, by all means, yes. Or even violin.
For me, I don't know if anybody... For me, the key's comfortable. It's a gentle song. It's one of those sort of resignation folk songs. It's not like a... and I'm happy with that. I hope everything is well earthed, otherwise I'm going to put my sound back on.
I sometimes tell people off on very large stages, you know, if there's an earth leak anywhere, people walking around DIs and stuff all over the place.
Is that a golden rule?
It's an absolute.
Didn't
if
know
something is wrong, you can get blown off your feet.
They had to turf us all out at Lavatory late on Sunday night. Was anybody there? Richie Hall, the comedian, who's very, very good. He does a whole spoof country and western. There were some serious thunderstorms coming. This was in late July, and fireballs were hitting, you know, thunderbolts were hitting within 20 miles. Suddenly everybody realised there's this massive metal domed marquee, and everyone was in there on damp grass with bare feet. So it could have been one of those. I mean, I'm not quite sure of the implications, but. What am I doing? I mean, it's good. I'm on the guitar.
So we're still in E, yeah?
Yeah, I can use some of my favourite E modal.
I'll go into sort of.
We're going 2 guitars and then we'll try a fiddle.
Oops.
Now we should be able to get through these ideas a bit quicker now that we've agreed chords and where the song is going. Playing it on a different instrument, it sounds complex, but it's the same. It's the same chords, and because we know what those chords are now, it's not going to be a problem for me to go.
Tuning anomaly there.
What we normally do is, because we can mute, I'll say one of my interesting and entertaining anecdotes.
And then he'll turn to me for the second bit, and like the other day, I'll forget what on earth it was. Stand there blankly, looking.
Oh, we did the thing about. We did the story about the mobile phone, and I was tuning, and I said, not as funny as what happened with the mobile phone the other day, because I left it on the cafe where Phil was having a cup of coffee, and Phil went, yeah? And he's supposed to then say how he picked it up and dialed it to try and phone me on my own phone.
Yeah.
And he completely forgot the rest of the story. And I go, anyway, Phil knew what happened next, he's just going...
It was a vacant moment. It was very hot. I wouldn't say too hot for me. Well, I can go baroque for this.
full of all deceiving, young manifolds, and seldom can prove true. They are roving and they're ranging, and their hearts are always changing, seeking out to find them some other pretty girl that's new.
Yeah, I prefer the other version so far.
Anyone reaction to that?
It's brighter.
Righto.
Yes.
Just realised where this song is. Go to my YouTube channel. Completely forgot. I was reminded of the song because I played the Tony Rose historical album that I re-edited from a load of literally cassette tapes in the audience. I gave a copy to Emily Sanders, who then recorded it on the last Isambard album, and then Emily goes out with the Constantine player Chris Sherburn. I did a gig on his boat very much earlier on this year, and Emily was there, and we did her version of
So in
the
fact,
song.
there's only one song and one person in the entire folk scene. They keep dressing up differently. And
Yeah,
going,
right. Singing the same old song I've just read, but it is actually up there on YouTube. So if you want a different slant on it, again, just go to the YouTube.
This version is all. Methinks the Lady Hamilton does protest too much, my lord. Lord, I don't know.
But that's a lot brighter, it's more interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
That's too much money, it's too much the same.
Try the mandolin a minute.
Sorry, just went into John Dowland.
Is he mine?
Sorry, I'll try and remember that later.
The rock and roll.
But rock and roll, yes, rock and roll the early years. Yeah, mandolin. I just thought mandolin might be tinkly.
I'm not sure about on this guitar. It's nice. I think Mandocello is nicer for the song, really. It's yes. Here's another possibility. Too tinkly, too tinkly. Less
Could I
tinkly.
have the mandolin capo, please, Steve? the one that's meant for the mandolin. No, that one.
Oh,
The
this.
little capo that only fits the mandolin.
But I might play the mandolin one day.
I think you should. I don't think you play the mandolin enough.
Trouble is I need to detune it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll give you one for Christmas.
mandolin.
Yes, a mandolin. Oh, you've got a perfect mandolin. It's at my house.
You're going to give me my own mandolin for Christmas.
I just realised that.
Is there no beginning to his generosity? Mandolins are hard instruments to tune because the strings are extremely tight and a tiniest little twist puts them way out. So it's, I think, probably the difficult one.
Do they not have the fine tuners like on a violin?
So it's not really about that. Yes, and I've actually seen people use them on
Yeah, I
guitars.
suppose you could.
Have you ever seen Adrian Legg? If you're ever lucky to see Adrian Legg play, he uses the lightest strings known to humankind. I think he makes them out of fuse wire. And he actually uses violin inline tuners.
Makes them out of horsehair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's absurd. But then that's how he can play the way he does. You know, I've tried to play his guitar. I just put a finger on one of his strings and it goes out of tune just by pressing it. So he has an interesting technique.
Okay, let's try this. 3, is it in tune? Good enough for the Elizabethans.
I said that once whilst doing a session with Phil Pickett. who's
Why would you
Pretty-
say good enough for Elizabethans during a gig? Oh, for a session.
in a session. He got really angry.
Why?
Well, he's about the foremost
Oh, okay.
exponent of
I
early
suppose
music
has
in
he
the country.
devoted his life to Elizabethan
Yeah.
music? It's fair enough.
And he did let me play his oud, so... Right.
3, 4, and. I know if I had but my own heart in keeping, and if I had but my own heart back again, safe in this breast I'd tether and lock it safe forever, and pray that it would never stray far from me again.
No, I like that. Because it's leaning in a slightly early music direction, and I just think there's more sort of... It's tinkly again, but it's even more
You've
tinkly.
got some
I've got-
bass to it. You've got the lowest string.
yeah, you've got everything...
balance.
Yeah. Question of balance.
Yeah, what does anyone else?
I thought it was a bit plinkety.
Plinkety!
It does go. It does go down that way. Yes.
Do the vocals take you in a certain direction? I mean, on mood, I'm just wondering.
The family relationship between the two instruments as well, I think gives a bit of
Mother and
cohesion
child
there.
reunion.
Yeah, same
Thank you.
family. But
No, you're quite right.
For me, the jury's out, really. The question was also what delivers the tune at the end.
Yeah.
Because I can play the tune very strongly on this. And it's a question, if Phil then plays the tune on the mandolin, are we going to lose a lot of weight and body of the track, of the song? Should we just learn the tune and see how it goes? That's the first bit.
This is a three-legged Morris tune,
Don't know, I made it up.
yeah, but it drops a beat all the time,
Does
which
it?
might confuse the Morrisman.
No, it always catches up again.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
So
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6,
Yeah.
7, 8. So the first bit.
Two, three, two.
Oh, we can. I'll go. And.
And again, 2, 3, 4.
And. Really.
Two, three, two.
4. That. Counted. And.
Ah.
Boom, bang. So, from the start. very good.
Okay.
So the way it would work is,
Can I just something else? When you originally were messing around with this, were you not repeating the chorus? As
yes,
well?
I was.
So are you still doing that with
I
Jason?
don't know what to do about that.
Okay.
No, I don't. He didn't want to repeat the chorus.
No, I don't. I also don't. I don't recall Tony doing.
No, he didn't.
No.
You know, Tony used to do seeking out to find them some other pretty girl that's new.
Yeah.
Whereas what I've been doing is seeking out to find them some other pretty girl that's new. Seeking out to find them some other pretty girl that's new. And it seemed a bit too much. You know, we only repeat the first end of the first one, I think.
Okay.
So how are we on that tune? Good.
What I will do in a minute is record it, take it away.
And say you wrote it.
Well, no, because we might use it tomorrow. Everyone will be involved in what we do tomorrow, you see, so it might appear
Oh, we've
somewhere
got to
in
teach them the
some-
courtly dance, yeah? We forgot that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. Wayne sleeps on his way here now.
So let's try, what about we'll do the, let's do the chords of the song, then the verses, and then we'll do a little bit of that tune once through,
Yep.
and then the last two verses, and then the tune twice through.
Yes.
So, and it will come in like dee 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 dee. Go into that minor together. Okay, so here we go, and it'd be nice if you clapped after this bit, because it's like just release, what was it?
God knows he's got to feel good about himself somewhere.
I'm just thinking, I'm not sure I can repeat the joke in Viz about Sting's tantric sex that goes on for 7 hours.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure I can.
Go on.
He said, yeah, I know how he feels. My wife's no oil painting either. But that's Viz for you. Not sure we don't tend to use smutty jokes on stage, but I just thought, but I haven't seen Viz for ages, but it is. Okay, not to be repeated. Shall we do it from the top then? Okay.
Sorry, I just want to say one more thing.
Is this a joke?
You know, it's great, the hobgoblin things are great. But I saw a brilliant one the other day.
What are we talking about?
No, this is a t-shirt, yeah. So it's What's the Matter Lager Boy, afraid you might taste something. It's the Hobgoblin, Seriously Dark. Fine beer, but I saw an absolutely fantastic one the other day. A bloke similar stature to me, with a big grin on his face, a t-shirt said, I have the body of a god. Unfortunately, it's Buddha. That's one of the best ones I've seen. Sorry,
Nice.
throw that into the ring. Good ear, isn't it?
I'll tell you what. Well, I can set you up one night. I can say Phil has the body of a god, and then you can hit the punchline. Right?
Yep. In fact, that's it. See, that's another 5 seconds of stagecraft that we don't have to worry about. But what if I forget, Steve?
Phil has the body of a god. Appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Give it a
Was anybody at the Llama Tree thing I did at the Ark this year? There's a lovely venue at the Ark. It's maybe about 600 people, lovely little marquee venue. And it was a solo thing on a Sunday afternoon, and I'd been drinking, I suppose. And I decided to do more stories, and I did the endless stories, and people were just pissing themselves laughing. And James Shepherd, the director, said, look, I'll tell you what, he said, if you come back next year, why don't you do your solo set? But in the evening, I'll give you a 25-minute stand-up. Because in the evening, it's serious comedians. They had, who's the impressionist? Alistair McGowan, was it? Fantastic, really? Richie Hall. It's serious Division 1. And he said, I'll give you a 20-25 minutes stand. I challenge you. So I thought, what would a comedy audience make without the context of the folk music? I mean, I might have the instrument there just I mean, a lot of people will know. I mean, half the audience will be. It could be a challenge. Could be a challenge.
I'm just thinking. I
Could end up
thought you
weeping.
were about to say something along the lines of what happened at Lavatory 14 years ago. After we thought we had finished and were done, and we were partaking of a particularly fine ale when the emergency call came through. Can you go to the village hall type venue and play a late nighter because someone hasn't turned up? By that time we were, of course, so we should just never attempted to have got on a stage. It's grossly unprofessional. And then all these people who, like Jenny Cobble, there's people who absolutely love what we do. We're all sitting there expectantly, and for some reason Knightley
Should we do
decided,
the
so we're
moment?
going to do tall shit. Should we? Yeah.
This is the moment.
This
right?
is the moment, okay? Steve Knightley should not have been on a stage. 1 o'clock in the morning, full of
Yeah,
people who love us.
Give us a wreck, Lord, for winter on this coast is hard. Grey frost creeps like mortal sin. No bread in the larder, no food in the bin. Give us a wreck, Lord, before we pray. Bed by the brag, bed by the brag. Food for poor arts. Oh, who gives a fuck? I lost the will to try. Bread by the bed. And by then, Phil was just crying with laughter.
But it was the shock on the faces of people who've hitherto seen us be moderately professional, who have actually descended to such utter and complete depths. It's a long
Luckily-
time ago, and we've never done it since.
Luckily, there were no children present.
Yeah.